Welcome ladies and gentlemen, Tactical Lich here. A while back we received some battle replays from one of Cool Umbrella's Friday night tournaments, but unfortunately I was not able to cast everything on the stream due to the stream overrunning for a bit. So instead we'll be casting the finale, the best of 3 between Central Scrutinizer on the green side and Coitus Interfratus on the red side in actual full battle replay videos. For the army builds here, Central Scrutinizer going for one of his main factions here, the Empire, a front line of swordsmen flanked by spears, backed up by spears and huntsmen, at the back hammer of witches protected by the halberdiers. For mobility, 4 Empire Knights heavily armored with decent charge bonus, so they can actually run over the lightly armored horrors and marauders pretty easily. A single unit of silver bullets is also stalking on the battlefield, and since they are stalking, they're hidden away from the enemy's sight, and that means Kairos can't actually target them with blue fire unless something gets close enough to spot them. Leading the army, we have Boris Todbringer on his griffin, supported by a single light wizard. On the other side of the battlefield, we have Coitus going for a super wide front line of Tzeentch army, marauders mixed in with blue horrors of Tzeentch backed up by double chaos warriors and a single halberd warriors. For mobility, we have 4 screamers, 2 on each flank, and leading the army we have, of course, Kairos Fate Weaver, one of the most powerful lords in the game, with healing, with damage mitigation, and with crowd control. Regrowth for healing, blue fire for sniping and just damage in general. We have Gaze of Fate for pinning down enemy units, and also Oracle of Eternity in case that little big bird here needs a bit of damage resistance. Now let's get the battle going as Kairos Fate Weaver getting a little too close to the enemy formations, while the Hammer of Witches and the Silver Bullets are moving in position to give him a hammering. And indeed, he is hammered by the cannons, plus the Silver Bullets welcoming him with a stream of hot lead, but a nice dodge from Coitus there, evading most of the bullets, while Boris is not having the exact same ease in dodging here, with the blue horrors catching him with quite a few shots, but he is indeed heavily armored with the innate missile resistance of characters, and also he heals himself, so not the biggest deal for the self-healing lord. Marauders also pushing forward towards the state troops. If they can get into range and start hacking apart the Empire infantry, then they can make quite a bit of headway, as the Marauders are indeed superior to state troops infantry. A little bit of blue fire sniping, chipping away the hit points of Boris, lowering his armor as well, but just not doing a whole lot in general. While on the side here, Empire Knights will be pushing up, possibly running into the blue horrors, especially with the shields and armor. They should be able to mitigate most of the firepower from the blue horrors and get safely into melee contact, while the frontline engagement is not going into the Empire favor, with the blue horrors chipping away the health of the swordsmen and then marauders hacking them apart. Things are not going too well, and the Empire frontline is faltering, but there is the reserve troops rushing in to keep everything back, plus we have the Empire Knights here slamming straight into the blue horrors, doing some nice impact damage. Blue horrors on the other side are also being compromised as the state troops somehow push through the marauders, getting onto the Tzeentch missiles and silencing them. While Kairos Fate Weaver and the Screamers are actually taking some substantial damage here, even forcing out an early regrowth on some Screamers here, the magic damage on the Silver Bullets can cut through those physical resistance pretty effectively and doing some really nice damage. Alongside the anti-large Huntsmen, their anti-large shots does extra damage to large targets, and that means all the flyers on Tzeentch side will be suffering. Now, Screamers are pushing forward, probably trying to catch these Empire Knights. Indeed, they are doing so, using their anti-large armor piercing to great effect, and Empire Knights cannot actually countercharge the flying unit. Also, in the front lines, state troops are buckling as the Chaos Warriors are engaging into combat, pushing back a whole bunch of Empire infantry, but then a little bit of a nice net of Amantok pinning them in place, allowing the Silver Bullets and Huntsmen to retreat, while on the other side here, Screamers engaging into melee combat, trying to recharge these swords and spears, I assume, and trying to buy time for the blue horrors to pull back and fire, but unfortunately they do not want to fight against so many anti-large chaff with their light armor, so they're backing up. And as a result, the Tzeentch army doesn't really have an advantage on this flank. They're tying down a lot of state troops, but that's about it, while the Empire Knights are still free to roam around the battlefield. Kairos, taking a little too much damage from the Empire missiles, decide to punch back with a blue fire, but unfortunately not doing the most damage as the cast of the spell doesn't have the greatest angle here. At the same time, the Screamers took a little too much damage from missiles and are pulling back. Halberd Chaos Warriors are pushing, but they're also tied down by the other Halberdiers, lightly armored, but they still have armor piercing, and the Halberd Warriors are not exactly having a good time trading, especially now that they have their backs against the silver bullets and will be unloaded with a whole lot of hot lead. Over here, Marauders pushing the swordsman, but then Boris Thoughtbringer is here to equalize this fight, doing some really nice debuff to their leadership with the Blood Raw, -8 leadership plus terror, and the Marauders are terrified and running. These swordsmen will be able to continue their fight for a little longer, while over here, Huntsmen being showered by a volley of blue fire from the blue horrors. But then again, they have a loose formation, so not the most damage from this volley of missiles. While on the other side here, the Screamers are not so lucky, as their hitbox are slightly larger than the blue horrors and are taking a lot of damage from all kinds of missiles. More and more swordsmen are regrouping and coming back to tie down the Empire Knights, using their lives to sacrifice themselves and buy more time for the missiles to shoot. While Kairos, once again having a rough time in the skies, being pushed away by Boris Thoughtbringer, and especially with all kinds of missiles focusing him once he gets too close. Yeah, he just needs to stay back, especially away from the firepower of the Hammer of Witches, but it is not that easy since the Hammer of Witches is an artillery unit and has 450 range. So in the end, Coitus just have to micro Kairos constantly to evade those shots from the hammer. Over here, Empire Knights are slowly working their way through the Screamers. Yes, they have anti-large armor piercing, but they are also pretty much a glass cannon. So if they get countercharged by even a single Empire Knights, they will suffer massive shock damage and simply crumbles and dies. Right now, Chaos Warriors and Marauders are pushing the Empire's left flank, but they are also straying a little too far away from the rest of the army. Instead, they need to go towards the middle and deal with the Hammer of Witches. Most of the Empire missiles are still online and the cannons are just hammering the Tzeentch army. But that might just not matter anymore because Kairos is now stuck in a bug. Perhaps this legendary Lord of Change has meddled with the warp one too many times and now the Tzeentch sorcery has finally caught up to him. Now Kairos is stuck in that position, unable to move, though he still has control with his abilities. Now I'm not sure whether this bug happened in the actual battle itself, but I'm pretty sure at this point the Tzeentch army can't really do much to pull back this game. Not only is the Hammer of Witches still firing, but also Boris, one Empire Knight, and the Silver Bullets are almost at full health, especially the Silver Bullets still have a lot of ammo left. Now unloading their shots straight into the Screamers who are pinned down by a net. Central Scrutinizer is now just consolidating his forces, reforming ranks, and allowed his troops, despite depleted, to receive some rest. With Kairos being stuck on a bug, the rest of the Tzeentch troops are being picked apart by the Empire army. At this point, Coitus can't really do much here, so we can just go into fast forward as Kairos continues to get stuck in place, and no Step Demon can get him out of there. Meaning that Central Scrutinizer will be taking the first win in this series. A great first game from Central Scrutinizer and Rescue Mimon from Kadzonazos, also known as Coitus Interfratus with his Discord name. Now for the army performances here, we have the Hammer of Witches somehow performing really well in this game. Sometimes these days you don't really see cannons do well in battle, but this time the magic damage definitely helped them to ignore that physical resistance on the demons and did some pretty good work against Kairos Fate Weaver. For the rest of the army, the Empire Knights are great at just running down the lightly armored Tzeentch units. The Blue Horrors, the Marauders all got hurt pretty bad by the charge attacks. State troops didn't really do much damage here, but all they needed to do was to body block the Tzeentch army to buy time for the rest of the missile units to dish out the damage, and that is exactly what happened here. Huntsmen doing a lot of damage, earning back their cost. These ones not so much, but still most of their units are intact, and Silver Bullets definitely dishing out some serious pain with their magical missiles. As for the lords here, the Light Wizard is just there for the net, while Boris Thoughtbringer mostly to terrify enemy infantry and provide a nice tanky single entity lord to deal with the blue fire spam. While for Tzeentch here, Kairos Fate Weaver didn't do much damage, neither did the Screamers, as they were not having a great trade once they landed and got charged by the Empire Knights. the Chaos Warriors, they're too expensive to earn back their value by fighting through a bunch of Empire State Troop chaff, while Blue Horrors did okay, earning back most of their value, but the Marauders definitely did not, being repelled by a combination of Empire Knights and the State Troops themselves. And that's it for the first battle. I'll be posting the next battle tomorrow, so be sure to subscribe and keep an eye out for new video uploads. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Tactical Lich, signing out.